He was a Wall Street titan, untouchable, or so he thought, until the night an event took a detour into danger. David strolled away from the gala, speeches blurring in his mind, craving the cool New York air. He ditched his driver, wanting the quick walk, a slice of city life. Bad move. Turning down a shadowed lane, a shortcut gone wrong, he found himself cornered. 3 figures materialized from the gloom, faces hard, eyes hungry. Well, well, look what the cat dragged in. City slicker lost his way? One sneered, closing in. David's pulse hammered, adrenaline spiking. He knew this script. Money? Is that what you want? He asked, voice steady despite the tremor inside. We want it all, pal. Wallet, watch, the whole damn show, another growled, stepping closer. Before David could react, a voice sliced through the tension, sharp and clear. NYPD's coming, you better vanish now. They spun around. A woman stood at the alley's end, a length of pipe glinting in her hand. Her clothes were worn, street-weathered, her face etched with hardship, but her eyes blazed with unwavering defiance. Who the hell are you, lady? Butt out, one of them spat, swaggering towards her. He reached for the pipe. She moved like lightning, the pipe cracking against his skull. He crumpled. I called the cops, she stated, voice firm. Smart move is to run. Hesitation flickered in their eyes. A distant siren, real or imagined, hung in the air. They exchanged uneasy glances. Let's go, not worth it, one muttered. This ain't over, rich boy, the leader snarled at David before melting back into the shadows with his crew. David stood frozen, breath catching, heart pounding. He turned to the woman. She still gripped the pipe, knuckles white. You didn't really call the cops, did you? He asked, disbelief lacing his tone. A faint smile touched her lips. She lowered the pipe. Nope, no phone. But they didn't need to know that. Silence stretched, David absorbing the impossible. This woman, in her tattered clothes, smelling faintly of the city streets, had saved him. Thank you, he finally managed, the words feeling utterly inadequate. Forget it. Just watch where you're walking, she replied, turning to disappear back into the night. But something about her, the raw courage, the dismissive air, stopped him. Wait, he called, stepping towards her. She paused, turned slowly as if she'd anticipated his next words. Let me repay you. At least tell me your name. She looked at him, gaze steady and appraising. Sarah. And I didn't do it for your money. Doubt you could give me what I really need anyway. Try me. What do you need? He wasn't sure why he was pushing, but something about her pulled him in, a mystery he couldn't ignore. She hesitated, weighing his sincerity, then spoke, voice low. A fresh start. A real life. But that's not something you can just hand over. He frowned, intrigued, a spark igniting within him. He pulled out a business card, offered it to her. David Sterling, if you change your mind, call me. She hesitated again, eyes searching his, then took the card. Maybe I will, she said, slipping it into her pocket before vanishing into the urban labyrinth. Days blurred into a week, but Sarah's face haunted David's thoughts. He told himself it was just the shock, the unusual encounter. But curiosity gnawed at him. It wasn't every day someone so unexpected, so raw, crossed his perfectly manicured path. Lost in spreadsheets in his penthouse office, his routine shattered by the image of her fierce eyes, the call came. Mr. Sterling, a woman to see you, says you know her. Anticipation surged. Send her up. He went to the lobby, heart quickening. There she was, Sarah. Cleaner now, but still carrying that quiet intensity, a seriousness that belied her young age. I can't believe I'm here, she said, voice firm but with a tremor he now recognized. But I'm out of options. I need help. David studied her, the same pull he'd felt in the alley intensifying. There was something about her, a hidden strength, a vulnerability she tried to mask. He was used to people wanting things from him, but Sarah seemed different, reluctant, as if asking for help was an act of desperation. Sarah, he began, crossing his arms, adopting the cool, controlled demeanor he used in boardrooms. What can I do for you? She hesitated, gathering herself. I need a job, anything to get on my feet. Start over. You said to call... She trailed off, eyes downcast. David considered it. Hiring a street woman, a complete unknown, was insane, risky, but his gut, the instinct that had built his empire, screamed at him. Sarah wasn't just anyone. All right, he said, voice calm, decisive. I have an opening. Personal assistant, events, schedules, the usual chaos. Think you can handle it? Sarah looked up, surprised, a flicker of hope in her eyes. She hadn't expected this, not this fast, not this easily, but then suspicion clouded her features. Why? Why me? You don't know me, she challenged, voice hardening. David allowed a rare smile to touch his lips. Because you have guts, and I'm curious to see where that takes you. She stared at him, searching for hidden motives, then gave a curt nod. Okay, I'll take it. 7 a.m. sharp. Sarah arrived, dressed in simple clothes, clearly borrowed or from a thrift store. David welcomed her, ignoring the raised eyebrows and whispers from his staff. He knew his people. Image was everything, substance often secondary. Sarah, he sensed, was all substance. Desk's over there, he said, leading her to a workspace near his office, computer and phone ready. First task, organize my week. Appointments, details, mistake-free. Got it? Mistake-free, Sarah echoed. A touch of sarcasm in her voice he found surprisingly refreshing. He smirked. This was going to be interesting. He watched her settle in, observed her quick grasp of the system, her quiet efficiency. She was a fast learner, sharp, intuitive. But the wall was still there, the guardedness, the secret she held close. Lunch break. He found her alone in the break room, eating a plain sandwich in wax paper. He sat opposite her. How's it going? Fine. Not rocket science, she replied, eyes down. Good. Anything you need, ask. He paused, then added, you don't have to bring your own lunch. We have a full cafeteria, all employees. She looked up, wary. I'm not looking for handouts, just doing my job. David nodded, respecting her pride, but wondering how long it would take for her to let her guard down. Days morphed into weeks. Sarah became indispensable, efficient, a silent force in his chaotic world. She kept her distance, polite but reserved, a ghost in his high-powered office. But her talent shone through. During a critical investor meeting buried deep in financial reports, she caught a glaring error no one else had seen. Her quiet correction saved face and potentially millions. After the meeting, David called her in. You saved the day. How did you spot that? She gave a small, almost sad smile. Numbers used to be my thing before everything changed. David didn't press. He knew she'd tell him when she was ready, but that glimpse into her past only deepened the mystery. Not everyone was welcoming. Whispers followed Sarah, prejudice simmering beneath polite smiles. One afternoon, leaving late, she overheard two colleagues. What did she do to get this job? Sleeping with the boss? No way she's qualified. Sarah froze, back rigid but didn't turn. She took a deep breath, walked on. Their words stung, but she refused to give them power. The next day, in a project meeting, one of the same colleagues dismissed her idea outright. Sarah didn't flinch. If you don't understand my point, I can explain it better. Or would you prefer I just agree with everything you say? She said, a cool smile playing on her lips. David watched, a flicker of pride in his chest. She wasn't just brave, she was smart. She knew how to navigate the viper pit. Late one night, David stayed behind, reviewing files. Footsteps in the hallway. Sarah stood in the doorway. Still here? He asked, surprised. Wanted to thank you for the chance. I know it wasn't exactly a safe bet, she said, eyes meeting his. David tilted his head, studying her. You're exceeding expectations. But I have a feeling I'm still just scratching the surface, he said, a hint of challenge in his tone. A soft laugh escaped her lips. Maybe you're right. As she walked away, David felt something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. Sarah was different, a wild card in his carefully constructed world. Time accelerated. Sarah's presence shifted the energy in Sterling Enterprises. Her focus, her quiet competence, her unwavering honesty. She remained an enigma, but an increasingly intriguing one. David watched her, fascinated by how someone with so little could adapt so seamlessly to his gilded cage. He knew secrets simmered beneath her surface, but he was patient. He let things unfold. Then, one ordinary Tuesday, in a routine project review, Sarah dropped another bombshell. Mr. Sterling, before we finalize this proposal, I noticed a clause here, paragraph 7, subsection C, potential legal landmine. Silence descended. All eyes turned to Sarah. Whispers rippled through the room. Who did she think she was, questioning the lawyers, the deal makers? David leaned forward, examined the clause Sarah pointed out. Seconds ticked by. He nodded slowly. She's right. He looked around at his team. Fix this now or we're walking into a lawsuit. No one spoke. Reactions varied. Grudging respect, Stunned disbelief, simmering resentment. Sarah remained composed, unfazed. After the meeting, David summoned her. "Sharp eyes, Sarah. Where did you learn to read contracts like that?" he asked, closing the door. Sarah hesitated, then answered vaguely, "Used to be good with details, legal stuff, numbers." She clearly avoided specifics. "That's beyond good. You caught something my lawyers missed. Something's not adding up, Sarah. There's more to you than you're letting on, isn't there?" Sarah avoided his gaze, silent. The silence was an answer in itself. David let it go, for now. Charity gala invitation landed on his desk. David decided to bring Sarah as his guest. A professional outing, a test in a different arena. Etiquette, social maneuvering, the subtle dance of the elite. "Ever been to one of these?" he asked as they walked towards the ballroom. "Not exactly," she replied, eyes wide, taking in the crystal chandeliers, the impeccably dressed crowd. David watched her discreetly, gauging her reaction. Surprisingly, she seemed at ease, not intimidated. Her clothes were simple, but she carried herself with an innate grace, as if this world, despite its opulence, wasn't entirely foreign. He introduced her to investors, power brokers, the city's elite. "My assistant, Sarah," he said. To his surprise, she held her own, intelligent, articulate, even charming. "You've got a keen team, David," one investor remarked, impressed by Sarah's insights. "I only hire the best," David replied, his gaze lingering on Sarah. Later, David stepped away for a drink. Returning, he found Sarah deep in conversation with an older woman, elegant, sharp-eyed. "So how do you know David?" the woman asked, smiling politely at Sarah. Sarah hesitated, choosing her words carefully. "I've only been working for him a short time, as his assistant." "Assistant?" the woman repeated, a knowing glint in her eye. "Interesting. You carry yourself differently, like you've been in rooms like this before." Sarah didn't respond, but the comment hung in the air. Conversation ended, she found David near the bar. "People love to dissect everything, don't they?" she said, a touch of wryness in her voice. "Part of the game," he replied, handing her a glass of water. "But you handled it beautifully." Sarah gave a faint smile, changed the subject, but David sensed it. Something in her past didn't quite fit the street-hardened persona. Next morning, back in his office, David started digging. Sarah Sterling. He searched online, company databases, anything. He wasn't sure what he was looking for, just answers. Then he found it. An old news article. "Sterling Enterprises merger sparks financial ruin for local family." Headline screamed. The article detailed a high society family, the Reeds, decimated by a business scandal. Center of the photo, a young woman, face blurred but undeniably Sarah. He printed the article, tucked it away. He'd ask her. Later that afternoon, organizing files, Sarah dropped a small, worn photo. Reaching for it, David saw it. A portrait. Young Sarah, radiant, standing beside an elegant couple, the same couple from the article. "Who's this?" David asked, pointing to the photo. Sarah snatched it up, face paling. "No one. Unimportant. Voice tight." David showed her the printed article. "Sarah Reed, from the Reed family, isn't it?" Sarah froze. He saw the internal battle, denial versus truth. She took a breath. "Yes, I am. Or I was." David stared at her, article in hand. His voice, though calm, held an edge. "Why didn't you ever mention this?" Sarah glanced at the article, then away, as if the words burned her. "Because that life, it's not mine anymore." She took another breath, gathering strength. "My family lost everything, David. When that happens, you learn to bury the past." David set the article on the desk, eyes fixed on her. "Burying the past is one thing, but this..." He gestured to the article. "This explains your background, but not how you ended up on the streets." Sarah pressed her lips together, a wall rising again. Silence stretched. Then, voice low, she spoke. "My father, he tried to hold it together. Pretend everything was fine, but it was collapsing. Then, he saw a way out, a solution." David frowned, confusion clouding his features. Solution. "He arranged a marriage for me," Sarah said, voice flat, devoid of emotion. "To an investor. Someone who could inject cash, save the company." The words hung in the air, cold, brutal. David was stunned. He'd seen ruthless business deals, calculated moves, but bartering your own daughter. "You ran," he said, the realization dawning. "Yes, I ran." She crossed her arms, shielding herself from phantom blows. Before it was too late, but running, it has a price. I learned that the hard way. David didn't speak. He understood suffocating family expectations, but nothing like this. He watched her, trying to gauge what she needed, what she was willing to share. The article, it says your family's downfall started with a canceled contract from one of my companies. He paused, choosing his words carefully. How much did you know about that? Sarah blinked, surprised, as if he'd dropped a bombshell. Nothing. I never knew the details. Just, Dad always said business partners betrayed us, abandoned us when we needed them most. Silence descended again. David felt a cold dread creep through him. He wasn't one to shy away from responsibility, but in that moment, the weight of it crashed down. He might have indirectly contributed to this woman's ruin. That night, David was a ghost in his penthouse, pulling open dusty drawers, sifting through digital archives, searching for ghosts of his own past. Hours blurred. Then he found it. An old merger report, early in his CEO tenure. Clauses, decisions, the cold, calculated language of corporate restructuring. A directive to terminate contracts with underperforming companies. One name jumped out. Reed Enterprises. Recommendations from financial consultants, emphasizing necessary cuts for merger profitability. David's signature, stark and bold, on the final page approving the actions. He closed his eyes, a wave of nausea washing over him. Not a direct decision, no personal malice, just business. But as CEO, the ultimate responsibility was his. And now, facing Sarah, knowing her story, the guilt was a physical weight. How could he tell her? Would she ever forgive him? Days followed, shrouded in a heavy silence. David became withdrawn, lost in thought. Sarah noticed the shift in his usually controlled demeanor. She sensed it was connected to her family, the revelations. But she held back, respecting his space. Their fragile connection was still new, untested. Pressure could shatter it. David, wrestling with his conscience, became hyper-focused on Sarah, on her work. He delegated less, worked directly alongside her, as if trying to atone for past sins by elevating her now. Draft of the hotel project, Sarah said, placing papers on his desk. He picked them up, reviewed notes, but his mind was elsewhere. Excellent work, he said, voice detached. You have a real talent for this. Sarah gave a ghost of a smile, deflected the compliment. Just doing my job. But David saw it, the ambition simmering beneath the surface, the drive to prove herself, to reclaim something lost. Later that week, buried in dusty archives for a new project, Sarah stumbled upon a folder. Reed Enterprises. Her blood ran cold. Detailed financial reports, bankruptcy filings, the period of her family's collapse. She flipped through pages, heart pounding. Then she saw it. A memo, signed by David Sterling. Emphasis on cost-cutting measures, contract terminations. It wasn't just a corporate decision, it was a death sentence, her life sentence. Papers trembling in her hands, she marched to David's office. He was on a call, but cut it short, face tightening as he saw her expression. Sarah, what is it? She slammed the documents on his desk, voice shaking with suppressed rage. You knew. He looked at the papers, recognition dawning, then a weary acceptance. He took a breath. I didn't know the full impact, Sarah, he said, meeting her gaze. At the time, it was just numbers, keeping the company afloat. Numbers? She choked out, voice raw with pain. What about people, families? Did you ever think about that? David didn't answer. No excuses could bridge this chasm. I can't undo the past, he finally said, voice low. But I want to help you. Move forward. Sarah closed her eyes, fighting for control. Charity. That's all he saw it as. I don't want charity, David, she said, voice softening but steel-edged. I want to understand how people like you, how you can make decisions like this, destroy lives, and just move on. David hadn't expected that. Not anger, not accusations, just a plea for understanding. You're right, he said slowly, carefully. I was wrong about a lot of things, but I'm trying to be different now. Sarah didn't respond, but something in her eyes shifted, a flicker of something, maybe belief or just a desperate hope. That night, David delved deeper into the archives, board meeting minutes, internal memos. Then he found it, a name, Raymond Carter, the investor, the key player in the merger, the one who had pushed for the contract terminations. David had trusted Carter's recommendations, his advisors. But now, reviewing the data, discrepancies leaped out. Financial projections inflated, justifications flimsy, decisions manipulated, it seemed, to benefit a select few at the expense of smaller companies like Reed Enterprises. David closed the report, mind reeling. Carter. He knew Raymond was ruthless, a shark in the financial sea. But sabotage, intentional ruin? Next morning, David called Sarah in. He had to tell her. No more secrets. "Sarah, there's something you need to see," he said, handing her the report. She read it, face tightening, eyes narrowing. "Raymond Carter," she breathed, voice barely audible. "He was behind this?" "Looks that way," David confirmed, voice grim. "He manipulated the numbers, justified the cuts, all to increase his own profit." Anger flared in Sarah's eyes. Raymond Carter. The name was familiar. The investor her father had pleaded with, the one who had slammed the door in their faces. "He knew this would destroy my family," she said, voice low, trembling with fury. David watched her, saw the raw pain, the barely contained rage. He knew he had to act. "I'm going to deal with this," he said, voice firm, resolute. "How?" Sarah challenged, meeting his gaze, doubt flickering in her eyes. "This happened years ago. What can you possibly do now?" David gave a faint, steely smile. "More than you think." Days turned into weeks. David moved with quiet purpose, pulling strings using his vast network. Investigations launched, whispers circulated. Raymond Carter's name, once whispered with reverence, now carried a different weight: fear. David knew dredging up old scandals was dangerous. He'd faced powerful adversaries before, but Carter's reaction was swift, brutal. Anonymous messages, veiled threats, phone calls in the dead of night. Someone wanted him to back off. The message was clear. Sarah, watching David navigate this dangerous game, felt torn, admiration warring with fear. "You don't have to do this, David," she said one evening, reviewing documents late into the night. "I don't have to, but I want to," he replied, unwavering. "If I can fix even a fraction of the damage, it's worth it." Sarah knew arguing was pointless. Something had shifted in David, a transformation she couldn't ignore. He wasn't the cold, distant titan she'd first met. This new version was driven by something deeper, a sense of justice, a need for redemption. One afternoon, Sarah, organizing files, found a plain envelope on David's desk, no return address. Curiosity piqued, she opened it. A photo of herself, recent, and a chillingly simple message: "Stay out of it, or we all lose." Ice water in her veins. The threat was real. They were being watched. She rushed to David, interrupting a board meeting, envelope clutched in her hand. "We need to talk. Now." David dismissed the directors, followed Sarah to his office. She showed him the photo, the message. "Found this on your desk." David examined it, face hardening. "Confirms my suspicions. Carter's playing dirty." Sarah's voice trembled. "David, maybe we should stop. It's not worth this." He looked at her, eyes unwavering. "It is worth it. If anyone thinks they can intimidate you or me with threats, they underestimate what this means to me." Sarah wanted to argue, but saw the resolve in his eyes. He wouldn't back down. A stubbornness that was both terrifying and strangely compelling. As David plunged deeper, Sarah noticed a change in him. He worked relentlessly, fueled by a quiet intensity. Late nights, early mornings, poring over documents. She couldn't understand how he sustained it, the relentless pressure. Then she realized it wasn't just about justice, it was about something more personal, something he carried deep inside. One evening, working side by side, Sarah broke the silence. "Why is this so important to you, David?" she asked, voice soft, searching. "It's not just about fixing a mistake, is it?" David paused, as if choosing his words with care. "It's about who I want to be, Sarah." He looked at her, vulnerability flickering in his eyes. For so long, it was just numbers, success. But meeting you, it changed things, made me see there's more to life. Sarah was silent, absorbing his words, the raw honesty in his voice. "Do you think it'll change anything?" she asked, almost whispering. "Maybe not for everyone," he replied, gaze steady. "But for you, I hope it will." Days later, David received a call. Unknown number. He answered. "Sterling," a deep voice growled. "You're playing with fire. Walk away, now." Raymond Carter. David's blood ran cold, but he kept his voice level. "You've got a lot to lose, Sterling. Me? I know how to win. Don't make me show you what I'm capable of. David gripped the phone, knuckles white. I'm not afraid of you, Carter. Try whatever you want. I'm seeing this through. The line went dead. Threats escalated. The air in Sterling Enterprises crackled with tension. Sarah, reviewing files one last time, found it. A contract, signed by Carter, detailed financial cuts, yes, but also a hidden clause, a scheme to acquire Reed Enterprises shares, pennies on the dollar after driving them into ruin. She raced to David, contract trembling in her hand. Look at this. David examined it, eyes narrowing. This is it, he said, voice tight. Enough evidence, we can expose him. Sarah nodded, relief washing over her, but fear still gnawed. What if he tries something? David gave a faint smile, but his eyes were hard. He already has, but don't worry about me. Standing up to men like Carter, it always comes with risks. Sarah wanted to believe him, but fear for him was a constant ache in her chest. Tension coiled tight, threats intensified, Carter's desperation palpable. David remained resolute, but Sarah couldn't shake the feeling of impending disaster. One afternoon, reviewing final documents in a small office, a deafening crash from downstairs shattered the silence. Heart leaping into her throat, Sarah froze. David reacted instantly. Stay here, he commanded, rising to investigate. David, no! Sarah cried, but he was already gone, disappearing down the stairs. David reached the lobby, front door ripped open, papers scattered, the room ransacked. A hasty, brutal message. Then he saw it. A note pinned to a shattered picture frame. This is your warning. Stop now. Fury surged, cold and sharp. He raced back upstairs. Sarah waited, face pale, eyes wide with terror. Carter? She whispered. David handed her the note, grim-faced. Sarah read it, a knot tightening in her stomach. This has to stop, David, she pleaded, voice desperate. I can't lose you over this. Sarah, David said, voice firm, gentle. This isn't just about you, it's about all the people Carter's hurt. I can't let him get away with it. Sarah knew arguing was futile. David was locked in, driven by a force she couldn't comprehend but couldn't deny. That night, Sarah stayed at David's penthouse. He insisted. Safer there, he said. But no fortress could contain the fear gripping her. David worked downstairs, a silent storm of activity. Sarah wandered the vast, opulent living room, restless, heart pounding. She couldn't deny it any longer. She was falling for him, hard. David Sterling, the titan, the enigma, the man risking everything. She had to tell him. She went downstairs, found him hunched over his laptop, face illuminated by the screen. He didn't notice her until she spoke. You can't carry this alone, David. He looked up, surprised by the intensity in her voice. I'm not alone, he said softly. I have you. The words, simple, direct, hit her like a physical blow. She stepped closer, sat beside him, arm brushing his. What if something happens to you? Her voice was barely a whisper. David was silent for a long moment, then answered, voice low, sure. Nothing will happen, I promise. Sarah wanted to believe him, but promises felt fragile in this storm. She sighed, leaned closer. David, I don't know how we got here, but I feel like we're connected, in a way I can't explain. David looked at her, expression softening. He closed the laptop, set it aside. I feel it too, and as much as I try to rationalize it, explain it, the truth is, it doesn't matter how or why. What matters is, it's real. A rush of emotions surged through Sarah. For a moment, the threats, the danger faded, leaving only the raw connection between them. David reached for her hand, his touch sending a jolt through her. Sarah, I don't know where this is going, but I want you to know I care about you, more than I've ever cared about anyone. Tears welled in Sarah's eyes, throat tightening. I care about you too, David. Silence descended, heavy with unspoken emotions. They sat there, hands clasped, the city lights twinkling outside the panoramic windows, a fragile island of peace in a world teetering on the edge. Next day, the call came. David's legal contact. Evidence against Carter complete, ready to be filed. The dominoes were about to fall. We have what we need, David told Sarah, phone still in hand. Carter's finished. Nothing he can do to stop it now. Relief flooded Sarah, but worry still lingered. What happens now? Now, we hand it over to the DA. He gave her a faint smile, but his eyes held a shadow. Carter won't go down quietly. We need to be ready. Sarah nodded, a cold dread settling in her stomach. Ready for what, exactly? That evening, as David prepared to deliver the evidence, a car pulled up to the penthouse. Doorbell rang. Security announced an unexpected visitor. David went to the door. Man in an expensive suit. Raymond Carter's lawyer. "Sterling," the lawyer said, voice clipped. "Mr. Carter asked me to deliver a personal message." He handed David an envelope, turned, and left. David opened it. Inside, a single stark sentence. "If you move forward, you'll destroy more than you think." David's jaw tightened, face impassive. Another threat. But this time he wasn't backing down. He returned to the living room. Sarah waited, anxious. "What was it?" she asked, voice strained. "Another threat," he said, shaking his head, placing the note on the table. "But it's too late for him now." Sarah didn't reply, but the weight of the situation pressed down on her. The final showdown with Raymond Carter was imminent, and nothing would ever be the same.